Good morning. Now today we are going to discuss the posterior compartment of thigh. The posterior compartment of thigh and its muscle, they are also known as hamstring, but not all of them are they qualify as true hamstring, because being true hamstring, the muscle they has to cross both the joints. They have to cross the hip joint as well as they have to cross the knee joint. So they have to cross both the joints, and that's why they are involved in both extension at the hip and flexion at the knee. So the muscles which qualifies for these are semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and long head of biceps femoris. Other than that, the muscles here are also the short head of the biceps femoris, because that makes the biceps, and adductor magnus, the ischial part of the adductor magnus. But since these both muscle they don't cross both the joints, the hip as well as the knee, so they are not a true hamstring. So the true hamstring are semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and long head of biceps femoris. And also this hamstring they should be supplied by this tibial division of the sciatic nerve. So they are supplied by this tibial division of the sciatic nerve. So these are the true hamstring, and blood supply of this compartment is mainly through the perforating branches of profunda femoris artery, especially the first perforating artery. So we will discuss that. This now we will just see the muscles of this compartment, how they are lying. This is the overview of these muscles, and the shown here is the back of the right thigh. So here this muscle on the posteromedial aspect, this muscle which has this tendon. So this is the posteriormost portion. In the medial aspect, this is semitendinosus. Semitendinosus. And this semitendinosus is resting on this muscle, overlying this muscle. This muscle. This is semimembranosus. So posteromedially, there are these two muscles, semitendinosus and semimembranosus. And posterolaterally, this is the long head of the biceps femoris. And on the deeper aspect, the fiber from the short head, here it is shown, the fibers from the short head, they join the long head to form the biceps. Here the biceps, long head are cut, and the short head is shown, how they join the fibers of the long head to form the biceps finally. So they are lying on the posterolateral aspect. Posteromedially are, this is the semitendinosus with this long tendon, and this is lying on this flattened portion which is the semimembranosus. So both are lying on the posteromedial aspect, and deeper to them is this big muscle which is the adductor magnus. So combined together they form this posterior compartment of the thigh. Let's discuss the muscle attachment. Muscle of this compartment, starting with this posteriormost muscle, semitendinosus. Now, semitendinosus is notable because of this muscle is half tendinous below the mid thigh and half fleshy above the mid thigh. And this muscle, it is lying posteromedial along with the semimembranosus. And this muscle, it arises from this inferomedial impression on the upper area of the ischial tuberosity along with the long head of the biceps femoris as a tendon, and then this muscle descends, this fleshy fiber descends, and below the mid thigh it becomes tendinous, lying on the posterior surface of the semimembranosus. Then this tendon, this curves around the medial condyle of the tibia over the tibial collateral ligament and insert into the upper part of medial surface of tibia behind the attachment of sartorius and gracilis, and the attachment is distal to the attachment of gracilis. So the insertion is similar to these muscles as pes anselmus. Now the vascularity, it is provided by these medial circumflex femoral artery and first perforating. They provide them this as superior and inferior branches. Generally, the superior branch arises from this medial circumflex femoral artery, sometimes from the first perforating artery. But the inferior one, which supplies this tendinous portion, it always arises from the first perforating artery. Now, it is innervated by the tibial division of sciatic nerve, and this distal portion, tendinous portion, it is often used in the surgical reconstruction of the anterior cruciate ligament. So to reconstruct this anterior cruciate ligament, sometimes this tendinous graft is used. Now the next muscle is this semimembranosus. Semimembranosus. Now the semimembranosus, it again arises from the ischial tuberosity, but name as its name defines it, it is so named because of the flattened form of its attachment, especially that of the into the this ischial tuberosity. So the upper attachment is in the posteromedial part in the thigh, and it arises by a long flat tendon from the superolateral impression on the ischial tuberosity. And the distal attachment, then this fusiform belly, it descends, and this distal attachment is by a rounded tendon into the horizontal concavity on the back of this medial condyle of the tibia, and from this insertion there, this is the main insertion, and from this insertion three expansion generally diverges. So first of these insertion is a series of slips into the medial margin of the tibia, just lying deep to the tibial collateral ligament. Second is an expansion which passes obliquely upward towards the lateral femoral condyle, and this is known as oblique popliteal ligament, that we will discuss in the knee joint. So from this portion medially it passes obliquely upward towards lateral, so this is known as oblique popliteal ligament. And third, it forms a strong fascia overlying this popliteus, and it reaches the soleal line. So these are the three expansion. Now its vascularity, it is provided by these perforating arteries which arises from first to fourth perforating artery. So these perforating branches, they supply this semimembranosus sequentially. So the branches, they arise from the first to fourth perforating artery, and innervation is from the tibial part of the sciatic nerve, tibial division of the sciatic nerve. Now next muscle is biceps femoris. As the name itself says, there are two heads of origin, proximal attachment. So there are two heads and it lies in this, as we have discussed, it lies in this posterolateral position in the thigh. So this long head, it arises again from the ischial tuberosity along with that of the semitendinosus. So it arises from this inframedial impression on the upper area of the ischial tuberosity through a tendon that shares with the semitendinosus and also with this related part of the sacrotuberous ligament. And this is the long head. Then the short head, it has this long origin. Short head, it has this long origin. And it arises from this lateral lip of the linea aspera and again in line with this lateral supracondyle line, upper part of this lateral supracondyle line. And from here, these short head, these fiber, they join from deeper aspect, they merge with the this long head. So fibers, they join the long head. Now these together, they form this fusiform belly, and this again descends laterally. And this main part of the tendon, it splits, and this main part of the tendon is splits round this ligament which is attached here, which is known as the lateral collateral ligament or known as the fibular collateral ligament. So this tendon, it is attached by splitting round this fibular collateral ligament to this head of the fibula. Now we will discuss in this its relation with the common fibular nerve. This common fibular nerve or common peroneal nerve, it descends along this medial border of this tendon of the biceps femoris. We will discuss that later on. That is an important relation. So this portion, it gets its vascularity from the first and second perforating arteries, the branches from the first and second perforating arteries. And this innervation is again from the sciatic nerve, but this long head, it gets its innervation from the tibial division, where the short head, it gets this innervation from this common peroneal or the common fibular division of the sciatic nerve. So that's how this portion is a hybrid one. Long head gets its innervation from the tibial division, where the short head gets its innervation from this common peroneal division of the sciatic nerve. Next muscle is adductor magnus. Adductor magnus, as we know, it is divided into two parts. One is the adductor part, and second is the hamstring part. Now this adductor part we have already discussed in the adductor compartment, and this hamstring part, it arises from this ischial tuberosity, from this lower area of the ischial tuberosity, which is divided into a large lateral and small medial part. It arises from this large lateral part of the ischial tuberosity, and the muscle from here, it descends almost vertically toward the adductor tubercle, and the related part of the medial supracondylar line, adjacent part of the medial supracondylar line. And we already know the gap between these two, this provide this conduit for the passage of the femoral vessels, which becomes the popliteal vessels by passing through this adductor hiatus. And the nerve supply is the tibial division of the sciatic nerve. It supplies this. Now this is the schematic of the attachment. Now this portion, this is genital tuberosity from this upper area. This upper area is divided into two parts, infromedial and superlateral portion. From this infromedial aspect, these are the two tendon which arises, semitendinosus and long head of the biceps femoris. So they arises from this infromedial aspect, and this semimembranosus, it arises from this superolateral aspect. And this is how they are being attached, lying on this posteromedial aspect. Semitendinosus as this pes ancinus on this anterior aspect of the medial condyle, just below the medial condyle of this tibia on the anterior aspect, as this pes ancinus and this semimembranous to the margin of this medial condyle. And this biceps femoris, this is attached to the fibula, head of the fibula, and this is being joined by this short head of the biceps femoris, which has this long origin from the lateral lip to the lateral supracondylar line. This joins this long head. Now next is the action of these hamstring. Now the hamstring, actually how the name itself is there, hamstring is because they are situated on the back of this thigh and they are string like muscle, so that's why they are known as hamstring. Now they have this different type of action where they are acting from above or they are acting from below. Acting from above, that means this uh, they are this leg is free, leg is flexible, the leg is moving, and the foot is not on the ground. And acting from below, that means foot is on the ground and they are acting on the hip joint. So acting from above, these muscles, hamstring muscles, they flex the knee. They flex the knee. And acting from below, they are the extensor of the hip. How they extend? They pull the trunk upright from a bending posture against the gravity. When you bend slightly, they are the main muscle which contract and keep yourself upright. And in this action, they are similar to the gluteus maximus, but they are more proactive. As soon as you bend slightly, they are in action, whereas when a extreme or a powerful extension is needed, then only the gluteus maximus is active. So that is the basic difference of their action. Now on a semi flex knee, the biceps femoris, it is a lateral rotator. It is a lateral rotator, and the semimembranosus and semitendinosus, they are the medial rotator of the leg on the thigh, acting on this knee joint. And hip extended, biceps is again a lateral rotator, and semimembranosus and semitendinosus both are the medial rotator of the thigh. In that case, they act on the thigh. So that is the action of this hamstring. But always remember, these are strong contractile muscle. They contract even up to 1/3 of their length. And these can be tested superficially by flexing your knee against resistance. You can palpate their tendon. You can palpate always their tendon. So this is shown here on the lateral aspect. This prominence is of this biceps femoris, and on the medial aspect there are two prominent tendon, one lying just anteriorly or anteromedially and one is lying posterolateral to that. This posterolateral prominent tendon is of semitendinosus, and one lying anterior to that is that of the gracilis. So where is that semimembranosus? This. So you will palpate this semitendinosus, and anterior to that is the gracilis. And on this lateral aspect, this is the biceps femoris which is palpated. And if you palpate just deep to this semitendinosus or in the gap between this semitendinosus and this prominent gracilis, you will find this flattened portion which is the semimembranosus. So this is lying in the deeper plane. So that's how they can be localized. Now hamstring we already know about this hamstring injuries or hamstring pull. This is seen among these athletes, especially among the sprinters or among the footballers, and this is only because there are two fast phases which happens in them, like in case of kicking a ball or in case of sprinting when it is in a swing phase. So there's a rapid first of all there's a rapid extension, or rather we can say hyper extension of the hip, and that is again followed by all that along with the bending of the knee, that is the flexion of the knee. So that signifies the hamstring they are in full contraction, and after that there is flexion, rapid flexion at the hip, and along with the rapid extension of the knee, and that is how the kick happens. That is how we kick a ball, or that is how we sprint faster. And this rapid changes in the contraction of this hamstring, they make them prone to the injury, and that happens in case of the athlete. And among these muscles, the biceps femoris, this is more prone. So there are grading of these hamstring injury. There may be a simple strain, or this is grade 1. Then tearing of the muscles below 1/3 of their girth is known as grade 2, and complete tear of the tendon on the proximal attachment to the ischial tuberosity or on the distal attachment. This is known as the grade 3. So this is the hamstring injury. And this is the vascularity. This is about the vascularity shown here. From the anteriorly we can see how this profunda femoris, it arises and gives these perforating branches 1, 2, 3, and profunda itself becomes the fourth perforating, and these supply the these posterior compartment of the thigh to the hamstring. So these receives its blood supply mainly from the profunda femoris and its perforating branches, and the blood supply of this upper part of the hamstring, it is derived from the inferior gluteal artery also. This contribute, and in the lower part this popliteal artery, it contributes. So there is a series of anastomosis between the superior portion, which is the inferior gluteal artery, and in the inferior portion, which is the popliteal artery. This is a series of anastomosis which is formed by these perforating arteries, and this series of anastomosis begins at this cruciate anastomosis at the lesser trochanter. So that's how these hamstring gets its blood supply. Now this is the dissection overview of these muscles. So first of all we have to cut and remove this gluteus maximus, and below that we can locate this muscle, hamstring muscle. So first of all we can always locate, this is a muscle which is lying superficially from the back, posterior most muscle, which is tendinous just below the mid thigh throughout. This is semitendinosus. Then cut the semitendinosus and locate just deeper to that is this muscle which is flattened, and this is the semimembranosus. Both are lying on the posteromedial aspect, and this is the biceps femoris. This is the long head, and when you cut the long head you will locate the short head. So cut the long head to locate the short head, cut the semitendinosus to locate the semimembranosus. And when we cut this long head, again this adductor magnus, it is also visible. And also what is visible is this thick nerve, which is the nerve of this compartment, which is the sciatic nerve. And tibial division, it mainly supplies these muscles. Now we will discuss the innervation of this compartment, or the nerve lying in this compartment, which is very thick nerve, which is the sciatic nerve. Sciatic nerve. And sciatic nerve is so wide that at its origins it is 2 centimeters in width. So this is the thickest nerve of your body, sciatic nerve, and it is made up of these two components, and their separation generally varies. Into tibial and common peroneal, it varies. Sometimes even in the beginning they are in this two separate portion, one lying medially, which is tibial, one lying laterally, which is the common fibular, or previously known as common peroneal. So their separation, it varies, but generally it separates at the junction of the upper 2/3 and lower 1/3 of the thigh, which is the apex of the popliteal fossa. So the tibial division, it is this formed from this ventral division of the sacral plexus nerve root being L4, L5, S1, S2 and S3, and this common fibular, it is from this dorsal division of the sacral plexus nerve root being L4, L5, S1 and S2, and this thick nerve gets its own vascularity, and this vascularity is the remnant of this access artery of the lower limb, which is a branch from the inferior gluteal artery, known as the artery of the sciatic nerve. If you cut this nerve, you will find this artery in the core of the nerve. So this is the thickest nerve of the body, and this occupies this post of the course of the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve, it as we know it from the pelvis, it comes into the gluteal region, but when it passes through this greater sciatic foramina below the piriformis. So it leaves the pelvis via this greater sciatic foramina below the piriformis, then it descends lying between this laterally placed greater trochanter, where these muscles are attached, obturator internus and this two gemini, they are all attached to this greater trochanter. So this is lying laterally, and this is the ischial tuberosity, from where these hamstring muscles they are arising. So it lies between these 2 points, between the greater trochanter and ischial tuberosity, and as descends from this portion, it lies on this posterior ischial surface, with the nerve to the quadratus femoris is lying deep to this portion. This supplies the quadratus femoris. This is the nerve to the quadratus femoris. It then crosses posterior to this obturator internus and the two gemini and this quadratus femoris, and this quadratus femoris, it separates it from the hip joint as well as the obturator externus, and as we can see, it is accompanied by this vessels, which is the inferior gluteal vessels, as well as this nerve, which is the posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, both lying medial to this. And as it descends further, it lies between the adductor magnus, which is lying anteriorly, and biceps femoris, which is lying posteriorly. So more distally, it lies behind the adductor magnus and is crossed posteriorly by this long head of the biceps femoris. And this is the plane generally surgically. When to locate this nerve, we proceed. We proceed in a plane between this long head of the biceps femoris and the adductor magnus. So this is about the surface marking of the sciatic nerve. Generally 3 points are taken, and they are joined by this lateral convexity. So first point is this line, which is drawn from this posterior superior iliac spine and ischial tuberosity, and from the midway of this point, midpoint of this line, we take a point 2.5 centimeter lateral to this. And second point is taken at the midpoint of this ischial tuberosity and greater trochanter. And third point is the apex of the popliteal fossa, which is the junction of the upper 2/3 and lower 1/3 of the back of the thigh. So this is the apex of the popliteal fossa. These 2 points, these 3 points, they are joined through a lateral convexity, and this is the surface marking locating this sciatic nerve. Now along the back of the thigh, as we have already discussed, it divides into its two divisions, tibial and common fibular, and their division it vary in the level. They may divide even at the beginning, where it appears from this pelvic portion into the gluteal region through the greater sciatic foramina. At the very beginning, it may be divided into this tibial and common peroneal division, but the common site it at the junction of this middle and the lower third of the thigh, which is at the apex of the popliteal fossa. Now the branches of the sciatic nerve. They are mainly the branches, muscular branches to this compartment. So the branches to the biceps femoris, they are arising from the lateral aspect, and the branches to the semitendinosus or the semimembranosus or the adductor magnus, they all arise from the medial aspect. They are arising medially. And there is one more branch, which is the articular branch. It passes to the hip joint, and then it divides into its tibial and common peroneal division, generally at the apex of the. Now the applied aspect of this sciatic nerve, we have already discussed one applied aspect, which is the piriformis syndrome. It passes below the piriformis. If the piriformis is damaged, that may cause the compression of the sciatic nerve, which is the piriformis syndrome. So other causes, so one of the most common cause of damage is misplaced gluteal injection. Generally we give the injection in the gluteal region in the outer upper quadrant, but if the gluteal injection they are misplaced, they may damage this sciatic nerve. Other causes include the severe trauma like fracture or dislocation of the posterior dislocation of the hip, and pelvic diseases that may also involve this sciatic nerve, and that causes mainly the paralysis of the hamstring. And since after that these tibial division and common peroneal division, they supplies all the muscles of the leg and the foot, so there is the paralysis of all these muscles. But especially what is evident is the foot drop, that we will also discuss. But what is evident is the foot drop, and also there is sensory loss below the knee. What is spared is the medial side of the leg is spared, and the upper part of the calf is spared, because the medial side of the leg, it is supplied by this saphenous nerve, which is the branch of femoral, and this upper part of the calf, it is supplied by the posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh. So these portions are spared. Other than that, there is a complete sensory loss. Now we will discuss again a related topic, which is related to this muscle of the posterior compartment. So this is a fossa, or a space, deep seated space, which is a diamond separated space lying just behind the knee. It is similar to the cubital fossa of the upper limb. Just it is lying posteriorly because of the rotation, and it is more deep. So they are the boundaries. This is this superomedial boundary, which is formed by these two muscles, semitendinosus and semimembranosus, on the superomedial aspect, and superolaterally it is bounded by the biceps femoris. Inframedially is the medial head of the gastrocnemius, and anterolaterally is the lateral head of the gastrocnemius, and these both head, they generally overlap. So this inferior boundary is more in approximation, and this whole fossa, this is mainly filled by this fibrofatty tissue. Plenty of fat is there, and if you keep your knee in extended position, these fat they bulge, because these muscle they are in straighter position, so this fat this bulge, and when you flex the knee, you can see the depression clearly. So this is the popliteal fossa, and you can access this fossa only by cutting this deep fascia, which is the fascia lata, which is covering this fossa and forming the roof, and this is pierced by this small saphenous nerve. As we have already discussed, this small saphenous nerve, so it is pierced by this small saphenous nerve, which pierce it and finally drain into the popliteal vein. And also it is pierced by this posterior cutaneous nerve of thigh, which supplies this calf also. Now the content of the popliteal fossa, first of all we have to remove this varying amount of fat. It is filled with fat, fibrofatty tissue. Then lying are this division of the sciatic nerve, tibial division and common peroneal division. Tibial division generally passes between just deep to this two head of the gastrocnemius, and if these two head are separated, that can be seen. So this is the tibial division. And this common peroneal division, it, as we have discussed in case of the biceps femoris, it passes from this medial margin of the biceps femoris. We will discuss this common peroneal nerve. And then the vascularity is there. This is the vascularity. If you just give a traction to this nerve, you can see this vascularity. This is the popliteal artery and vein, which is the continuation of the femoral artery and vein when it passes through the adductor hiatus. So these are the popliteal artery and popliteal vein. Artery lying medially, vein lying laterally. So popliteal artery and popliteal vein. In relation, just anterior to this is the tibial nerve. And also there are some small group of lymph node which is known as the popliteal group of lymph node, which lie along the popliteal vein. So these are small group of lymph node lying along with this vein, popliteal group of lymph node. So these are the content of the popliteal fossa. Now when you separate these or uh, clear these structure, we will see the floor of the popliteal fossa. So floor of the popliteal fossa is formed by this popliteus on the inferior aspect, popliteus and its fascia. Superior to it is the oblique popliteal ligament, and popliteal surface of the femur, most superiorly. So the floor is formed by the from above downwards popliteal surface of the femur, oblique popliteal ligament and popliteus muscle and its fascia. Now some brief information about this common fibular nerve or the common peroneal nerve. It descends laterally, lying just medial to the tendon of the biceps femoris. It then disappears into the substance of the peroneus longus, and this substance of the peroneus longus, it divides into its two divisions, superficial and deep peroneal nerve, that we will discuss in the leg. So it runs just medial to the tendon of the biceps and descends, and it disappears into the substance of peroneus longus, and there it lies against the neck of the fibula. It winds around this neck of the fibula. and that in that portion it lies in a superficial position. So here it can be palpated, can be rolled against the neck of the fibula, and also since being lying superficially, it is prone to damage. Prone to damage. Now there are some branches which it gives in this region. One branch is known as the sural communicating nerve. Sural communicating nerve. Now this sural communicating nerve, it pierces the roof of this fossa, which is the this facial aorta, which covers that and run in the downward direction to join the sural nerve below the bellies of the gastrocnemius. Then next is the lateral cutaneous nerve of the calf, which again pierces this portion of the fascia, and it passes over the lateral head of the gastrocnemius and supplies the skin over the upper part of the peroneal and the extensor compartment of the leg. We will discuss that in case of the leg, but these are the branches. Then there is a superior inferior genicular branch and there is a recurrent genicular branch. Superior inferior genicular branch, which is the lateral genicular branches of from this common peroneal nerve, and there is a recurrent genicular branch. So these supplies the superior tibiofibular joint as well as the knee joint, and they run from this lateral aspect. So they are the lateral portion of this genicular branches that we will also again discuss in case of the innervation of the knee joint, but that is only a brief information of this branches of the common fibular nerve in the popliteal fossa. So that's about this posterior compartment of the thigh. Thank you.